See?
No, he wasn't. That's what I mean. It was like huge f***ing uproar that he was like suggesting some of the things that he was, and now it wouldn't bat an eyelid. And we can talk about, you know, we could easily have a fucking panel about like whether or not trans people should be in sport. It would be super easy to do that now. Yeah. I don't think it would bat an eye. I think people would just be like, yeah, this is a valid topic for discussion as to like whether we should just be barring trans people from sport entirely.
I completely disagree. I think if you had a panel about trans people in sport, you'd have way more people that would be supportive of the idea that trans people should be involved in sport. I think that the conversation that you had 2 years ago would not be repeated today, and you'd have more people pushing back and going, no, trans people should be allowed in sports in this space.
Okay. I mean, obviously, we just fundamentally disagree on like what ChudLogic was like a couple of years ago.
Let's think of it like this then. What do you think Destiny's position would be now on trans people in sports?
What do I think Destiny's position would be?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I successfully argued him along the path that like it was nowhere near as much of an issue as he thought it might be at the time.
So now he's got a better position on it, do you think, these days?
I think probably, yeah. I don't know. I think if Vaush took a very pro-fucking transport position,
I think if anyone's made Twitch politics more reactionary, it's Vivian.
If these days Destiny has got a better perspective on trans people in sport,
the list? Are you joking?
Yours?
What, the Destiny has got like more progressive on the question of trans people in sport? Sure.
Yeah. And he's a big
you know how many people were saying that the leftists are fascist because of that fucking list?
Sure. I mean, I don't know what his opinion is on trans people in sport, but I think it's probably better than it's at least better informed than it was back then, because it jumped into the conversation not knowing an awful lot about it.
Well, that would suggest to me that, you know, if you had a panel now on trans people in sport, if like Destiny, who originally was arguing, you know, about the impact that puberty has on someone and stuff, and he's got a different position, and he'd be arguing more so for the case of, you know, more vociferously that trans people should be involved in sport, whatever that looks like. Then that would suggest to me that the space is you know, less reactionary now. If like a big creator like Destiny has even changed.
My Discord, not yours.
So if Destiny has changed his position on one thing, right? He's moved, like he was moved successfully. And I don't know this, to be honest, right? But he was moved successfully towards the idea that like trans people being in sports not any kind of problem. Then that means that the whole space is like not more reactionary than it was a couple of years ago. I don't know.
Okay. So what?
Is that the argument?
No, sorry. Just Rele's messaging me because he wants to join and ask you something.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a quick question. I don't want to turn this into like a panel.
Nah,
okay, but
yeah,
he wants to ask you something.
I don't want it to be.
Okay.
So how do I do it?
Obviously, you know, I think. Don't worry. I feel like the orbit of Voltron is starting to form. Okay, but don't worry, it's going to be okay. I'll step back. I'll step back. I'll
Destiny orbit of Voltron. Let's go.
I'll step back and I'll just kind of like make sure that, like I said, I think he just wants to ask a quick question. Wait,
sure.
Sorry, give me a sec.
I'm in a room.
Actually, could you hop into the green room of my Discord and I'll pull you in and we'll do it that way?
Green room. Oh yeah.
Sure.
The Chud Pit, the green room. Oh, green room. Okay. All right. Hello. All right. I just wanted to ask you. Can you hear me?
Hey, you're not on stream.
Yes,
yet.
I'm banned.
Okay. Well. Oh, okay. So I'm on stream now, right? I'm streaming as well, just for transparency. Is my mic choppy?
Quiet. Hello? Rele?
My bad. My mic gets really fucked. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I turned him up.
Yeah.
I turned him up.
Sorry.
Right, I'll turn you down a bit, okay? Bro, what the f***? You're supposed to be a professional streamer, mate. What's going on with your mic?
My Discord doesn't agree with me.
Okay, no worries.
Discord does not agree with me.
Look, I mean, you know, I just want to say, me and Viv were like at a bit of an impasse. I don't know if that's how you say it, right? So, you know, I brought you in terms of asking a question. We'll see how that goes.
Yep.
I think Joe Lewis asked to come on as well earlier, but we were right in the middle of it. So, it might be that this develops into a more rounded sort of situation if everyone's comfortable with that, right?
Okay. I just didn't want it to necessarily become like a panel or anything like that. Be for just like the sake of jumping in here, because I typically. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'll promise you one thing. I won't bring Mr. Girl on this time, okay? As long as we don't talk about him. I won't bring Mr. Girl on, all right? But
I don't know about that.
I mean, I'd be down to talk to them anyway. But no, I just...
Anyway, go on.
So in regards... I heard a lot of things in regards to primarily the xenogender. And Vivian, it felt like your position was that the xenogender... like discourse would have been a lot different had it occurred 2 years ago. And could you just go over how you think it would have gone down 2 years ago in comparison to today?
Yeah, I think broadly you would have had all the left-wing content creators that are on the platform saying, yeah, just like respect people's pronouns, don't be a cunt, and it wouldn't have like gained the level of traction that it did. I just don't think it would have been a conversation that we could have realistically had, because I don't think people would have been interested in the opposing position.
I don't know what you mean by that, but I have very fervent disagreement with that. So like maybe you could bridge this. Two years ago, especially earlier than that, the idea, me simply suggesting that you could be a xenogender, that you could be like, the attack helicopter gender is a good reference here, because there are many people that say you can be attack helicopter gender, even though there is nobody who is, right, that we know of at least, right, that you can be this. The mere suggestion of that got you labeled as a transphobe like 2+ years ago. So how could it be possible that we would have had better discourse on xenogender ideas 2 years ago if simply by bringing up the idea that, hey, you can be attack helicopter gender would get me labeled as a transphobe?
I mean, I think this is a really, really weird question to ask. I think obviously the reaction even now to somebody saying, well, if you can be whatever gender you want, then I can be attack helicopter gender, would be, yeah, that sounds like you're just doing a fucking transphobic meme.
Wait, no. Like, Demon Mama's on record for saying that this is consistent with xenogender. I think even Doe referred to this being consistent with xenogender. I think even Riverboat Jack, I could be wrong, said this was consistent with xenogender, and that if somebody did it in earnest, in good faith, that it would be fine.
Yeah, and that's a deeper conversation, and I think the position would have been pretty much the same.
You believe that people would have gone along with the idea of somebody saying that you can in earnest be attack helicopter gender and not thought instantly you were a conservative Ben Shapiro type person? 2 years ago,
extraordinarily theoretical discussion. Like
it wasn't.
Said,
hold on. Let me say.
As we know, there are no people who identify as attack helicopter.
2 years ago,
sorry,
Yeah, 2 years ago, the only people who brought that up were Ben Shapiro.
Yeah,
you agree with that, right? And so,
the only reason it had to be fucking analyzed in earnest is because people were like trying to explore the most hyperbolic and ridiculous ideas of like what a xenogender could be now, right?
So isn't that an example of the culture changing away from a more reactionary way?
No, I don't think so.
Really? So opening yourself up to be able to talk about more complex topics of gender without instantly labeling people that engage in that transphobic isn't a example of something becoming less reactionary.
Pushing trans people into the corner on xenogenders, in which they basically just have to say, yeah, sure, if somebody earnestly identifies as an attack helicopter, then like obviously we'd have to respect that. Clearly that's not a thing that we've come across, and basically everybody's saying they identify as an attack helicopter as a transphobe. Like, I don't see that as a substantially different position from somebody popping in and saying, oh, I identify as an attack helicopter and being called a transphobe.
No. I'm not saying you...
I think they would still get that.
I'm saying the suggestion that you could even in theory identify as an attack helicopter 2 years ago, you were laughed at. We literally all laughed at Ben Shapiro making this argument. That was the meme, is that you think being an attack helicopter is at all equivalent to, like, a trans woman? Like, that's so gross. This was an incredibly common position online. So common that if you didn't have it, you were transphobic. I promise you this was the case. I know that there's a bunch of people that have lived through that period of time that recognize that.
I feel like there's a huge amount of nuance that you're leaving out here, like, either deliberately or not. Like,
what is the nuance there that I'm missing?
I think that the like I said, like, pushing the conversation to the extremities and the hyperbolic, like, obviously any trans person now or then would eventually concede that, like, sure, like, if somebody earnestly identifies that way, then yeah, we'd respect that, because whatever, who gives a but, like, the idea that now somebody could, like, walk into a room and go, I identify as an attack helicopter, and everybody would be like, yes, I think that's a valid like, fuck off, that's not
hold on. And that wasn't a part of the conversation. The conversation was whether or not Twitch politics got more reactionary, and I believe that you're pointing to the evidence that it isn't. It's actually getting less reactionary, because what you just described, as we talked about 2+ years ago, you would have been laughed out of the room on the assumption that you were bad faith, just simply for you suggesting that somebody could be identifying as attack helicopter gender.
I don't know, really. We'd have to, I guess we'd have to find some videos 2 years ago of that on trans people addressing the question of, like, attack helicopter gender.
I think we could literally find you talking about it when Ben Shapiro talks about it.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't cover that many Ben Shapiro videos on my channel. I've never really been much of a React Andy.
I mean, you're trans. And there's a lot of trans people through that time got the attack helicopter gender, like, meme thrown at them. It was literally the meme. First trans women, next attack helicopters. Like, you absolutely experienced that. I know you. I remember you talking about it. Like,
I mean, I probably talked about it at some point, but I don't remember, like, exploring it in any great detail. I probably would have just said, yeah, anybody who says I identify as an attack helicopter is probably a transphobic fucking arsehole. And I still hold that opinion, and I think the majority of trans people, in fact, I think all trans people pretty much still hold that position. If somebody says they identify as an attack helicopter, they're probably being disingenuous. It's probably a transphobic meme. I don't think the position has changed on that.
That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is the conversation that you could even identify as an attack helicopter in the first place. The mere suggestion of that conversation would have been had you labeled as a Ben Shapiro watching Jordan Peterson lobster loving transphobe. That's what you would have happened. But now we're having open discourse about it.
It would come with as many caveats as it came with now. Right?
No, it doesn't.
Like, we just didn't have that conversation, right? That broad conversation about fucking xenogenders or whatever. Because, like, what was the conversation to fucking have? If somebody uses these ims, she, her, Caesar, whatever, like, just fucking, just go with that, like, pronouns are people's choice.
So,
like,
sorry. Good.
I feel like we're at an impasse here, because I feel like you're trying to construct a past based around, like, speculation of what would have happened if we actually did have the conversation. That I'm saying I don't think there would have been the impetus to have. Because I don't think there would have been people opposing it.
I believe that we did have the conversation, and the conversation was being had with conservatives. Right? Conservatives' thing was like, you're going to identify as attack helicopters, you're going to identify as dogs, this is what you're going to identify as. And everybody, I felt like in pretty handshaking uniform, was like, no, this is severely different than me identifying as a woman. Right? You identifying as an attack helicopter is severely different than me identifying as a woman. And that was the whole conversation.
And the position still hasn't changed. Nobody that I would consider trans, or that, like, pretty much anybody would consider trans, like, actually, right, goes, yeah, I have, like, the same fucking, like, I am a deer trapped in a person's body or whatever. Like, nobody does that. Right? Still nobody does that. Still nobody accepts that as, like,
no. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is even the conversation at all was had just it's not the same, and that's it. Any more conversation that you attempted to have would result in you being labeled as transphobic, right? Even the mere suggestion that they could be comparable. Demon Mama's
the trans community rally behind ferociously Steph when she was getting her fucking shit. So I don't know if that's the case, honestly. Maybe.
And how long ago was that?
When was her thing up on fucking live stream fails and shit? It's about a year and a half, year and 8 months, something like that.
And do you think that the response in Twitch politics to ferociously Steph and those ideas that were battled with at that time has changed at all, or is it exactly the same?
I think having explored the topic of xenogenders more, I think more people have a fuller understanding of what it is that they're talking about. But I don't think that the positions have changed broadly. I think there's a significant amount of people who are now saying, actually, no, we shouldn't respect those gender identities and those pronouns. But I think the people that are saying that we should, haven't really changed their position.
So if nobody's changed their position, how have we become more reactionary?
I mean, I literally just said I think there's more people saying that we shouldn't respect those genders and pronouns.
So they did change their position.
I don't know if individuals changed their position, but sure, the Twitch community as the Twitch poll, the insular Twitch poll community as a whole, I think, it was probably changed its position overall.
So
Sorry, wait. Sorry, Hans. Sorry, I just, I don't want this to turn into a dog pile, okay?
I'm not, that's what I was trying to avoid.
No, I know, Hans. I
understand.
I know you're not. But I just, okay. Sorry, I don't want to be people blindsided. Okay,
That's fine. I'll take people. I'll take people, but if I can take them one at a time, that'd be nice.
Yeah. Okay. So, Rele, if you can just
mute myself. Yeah.
Okay. Right, let's see what the situation is. Rele, is there still stuff you need to hash out? What's the
I mean, I would, but I feel like this is going to go on a bit longer. My only initial responses to what was... Yeah, my only initial responses to what was said right there is... if we're arguing that people have changed their positions, their political positions as a result of... in recent times to become more reactionary here, when you previously talked just a moment ago that I don't have any evidence of a conversation being had where the people choose to not engage in the conversation because you would be labeled transphobic, right? Because you said I didn't have any evidence of a conversation happening, and so I'm just appealing or speculating. Okay, sure. It's if that's not relevant, then I can just bring up the point that I thought you responded to that with, right? Okay. Which is that there was a lot of people that didn't want to have that conversation about attack helicopter gender because you would be instantly labeled transphobic by the entire trans community to even suggest that helicopter gender could be a thing worth talking about in regards to the trans discourse.
I still don't think
you were considered bad faith
I think the entire fucking xenogender discourse was used very often as just an excuse for people to make attack helicopter memes. It was pretty fucking disgusting.
Wait, and where do you think
helicopter memes?
I don't disagree with you, but where did that feeling come from?
Sorry,
where did that feeling come from? That there was a lot of people using that discourse in bad faith. And why did it change to the point where there's a lot of people that aren't using it in bad faith? People like Demon Mama that say that you can be attack helicopter gender in earnest, but there's pretty much no human that, to any of our knowledge, currently is. You can do it in earnest. What changed, if not the Twitch community opening up and becoming less reactionary? And that the average person on Twitch is less likely to use that as simply a pissing contest on trans people and are now more likely to engage with it in earnest.
I'm not sure I fully understand the question. I'm definitely not saying that Demon Mama's got more reactionary. This isn't a question of individuals. It's a question of the character of the community as a whole.
My whole thing was, you said previously, right, The attack helicopter discourse, part of the reason why it didn't happen was because anybody who brought it up was probably bringing it up in bad faith to shit on trans people. I don't disagree with that. That's
and I think we would say the same thing now.
I don't think so. So
if somebody, I mean, I don't know. I said this before. If somebody came in and said, "I identify as an attack helicopter," you just get called a transphobe.
Okay, so no. I'm not saying that you identify as an attack helicopter. I'm talking about having the discussion as to whether or not you can identify as an attack helicopter.
Yeah,
that conversation in general.
Yeah, I don't think that conversation would have been provoked, right? That conversation isn't provoked because people are not going to take the contrary position that, like, we shouldn't respect neopronouns or xenogenders or whatever, right? So there's no need to, like, fully explore and take it down the fucking route of, like, well, what actually is, like, feasibly, theoretically, like, something that we would go, well, fine, sure, whatever, right? I think if there had been any impetus to take it down that direction, I don't think that the people who I don't think that, like, trans people in general would have said anything fucking different than what they say now.
So right? Then I would disagree. So, like, let me just ask you, and then we can just have people gauge whether this is, and I'll back out after this. You believe that when Ben Shapiro came up with this argument, probably like, what, 4 years ago? 3 years ago, the attack helicopter memes were pretty ancient, right? The attack helicopter memes, that when he was using those arguments against trans people, you would then say, by your argument, that most people on Twitch and most trans people were like, well, if somebody earnestly wanted to identify as an attack helicopter, that would be fine. But clearly Ben Shapiro is doing this in jest, so it can't happen.
If the conversation was actually provoked, I think, yeah.
You think most people would believe that is okay during the Ben Shapiro days, the early Ben Shapiro days? You don't think it was like, by and large, there wasn't support for people identifying outside of, like, you know, or outside Xeno, I should say, like, you know, identifying with cats or attack helicopters? You think that by and large it would be, oh yeah, it would be fine, but it's Ben Shapiro, so it's not. You think that was the opinion of most people?
I tried to say, I don't think the conversation was explored in that direction. Pushing it to that direction, that would ultimately be the conclusion that people would come to. Yeah, because, like, people would, like, broadly supportive of, like, any pronouns, any genders.
So I want to illuminate your position on that. My position, allow me to illuminate mine. My position is part of the big reason why we didn't see discussions like that. It's because everybody agreed that attack helicopter gender was stupid and ridiculous and not at all comparable to trans women and trans men, and that to even suggest attack helicopter, or even the invocation that you could be, was seen as transphobic because you're trying to pull a Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, there was a lack of complexity in the conversation, and I think, broadly, it still is. There are just very specific circumstances in which you're like, well, theoretically, sure, why not, right? But, like, I don't think that that's. I wasn't quite. I don't think that what Demon Mama said, right, or you said she said, because I don't know exactly what she said, but I don't think that what you said Demon Mama said would have been met with, oh, Demon Mama, you're just being a fucking transphobe.
So do you think Demon Mama would have had a better or worse response? Let's just, we don't have to put Demon Mama over it. A person saying that you can identify as an attack helicopter would have a better or worse response from the general left online right now on Twitch, or 4 years ago on Twitch?
I think there's, like, the entire meat of the conversation to consider. I think with the entire meat of the conversation, you would have the, you know, a pretty similar kind of fucking response.
Really? You think it would be similar?
I mean, so in terms of, like, accusations of transphobia or whatever, obviously I think now there's more people who are going, well, that's clearly ridiculous. Trans people have gone too fucking far or whatever. But yeah, what do you want me to say? Like, I can only say it so many different ways, so many different times.
No. I mean, yeah, I think at this point I just was trying to illuminate the differences in our opinion. Yeah. I was just trying to illuminate the differences in our opinions, and people can come to the conclusions that they want. I just, I think that very specifically, most people were united in believing that attack helicopter gender was just stupid. Nobody is going to do that shit. Nobody can ever do that shit. It's not the same as trans people.
Broadly, I think people are broadly united in that opinion right now.
Hold on.
I don't think that there's...
I wasn't quite done, right? But I think that the conversation about that has opened up as many people on the left are now becoming a little bit more acclimated to the idea that this might be the case through the unironic pushing of boundaries by people who are identifying as xenogender. So, I mean, hats off to the people that are identifying as xenogender, opening up that conversation and opening up, that discussion if that's their intent. I know Doe said something to the effect
super
that...
base dear comrades.
Sure. Yeah. There you go. Hats off to them if that's what they were trying to do. But if you recognize that the discourse is happening and that it is actively changing people's opinion, my whole point is I don't think you could ever make the argument that the Twitch space is getting more reactionary. And
I distinctly remember an even more laissez-faire sort of attitude to gender, and gender is fucking meaningless. We should totally abolish it. You can identify as whatever the fuck you want. I remember conversations about fucking what was it, astral gender and cloud gender and star gender and shit were happening at the time, where people were just like, yeah, these seem kind of fucking weird and whatever, but who gives a fuck, right? Gender's a spook. Was the general kind of opinion.
So if you, so then just this is the last thing, and I'm a bail for real this time. Sure. So if you believe that the conversation by and large, the response would have been by and large the same for xenogender right now as it would have been 2-4 years ago on Twitch,
I think it would have been less toxic. Yeah.
If it would have been less toxic.
Yeah, I think it would have just been a whole bunch of people going, yeah, sure, gender's a spook, you can identify as whatever the fuck you want, and we'd have not had the same level of fucking traction, because people, like I said right at the beginning of when we started interacting here today, I think people would broadly just not have taken the opposing position. There wouldn't have been enough people taking the opposing position to make it into a big fucking drama arc.
Okay. I think it just disagrees, so that's where it stands. I want to say thanks for talking to me. Thank you, ChudLogic, for having me on. And ChudLogic, did you toggle? Is that what I'm saying? You've been hitting some shots, man. I think you might have toggled, man. I mean, your accuracy was dog shit. It was 24% last time, but you got a lot of kills. I don't know what's happening.
Where your mouth is. Next time we're going to 1v1.
Yeah, true. I got to download the game.
I want to go back to the internet that I lived in 2 years ago as well, friend. It was a good fucking internet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I'll catch you later, Rele.
Yep. You have a good one.
Where your mouth is. Next time we're going to 1v1, bitch. Okay?
Antonov 5, I want to go back to the internet that I lived in 2 years ago. It was a good fucking internet.
I don't think there was anything more that I could do there. I don't think there was anything more I could do. I think I did a good job at displaying the ridiculous... I just don't know how somebody who lived through the Ben Shapiro attack helicopter days could say that shit. I just don't know how that's possible. I just don't understand. Okay.